Gates Adams here on behalf of Apex Trader Funding, and I am here with John. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to see you again. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Now, we had an opportunity to do one of these, what, a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah, it was just a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things that has happened is that you and I actually have kind of connected and become friends since that process. So, one of the greatest and most exciting things for me as I do these is to see the people that I've engaged with and connected with, see not just one payout, not just one level of success, but that continued consistency, that continued ongoing level of success. So congratulations on that. And it
Thank
really,
you.
really excites me to see, especially, with you, since we've had a chance to become friends since then, to
Yeah,
continue to achieve these levels of success. So congrats on that.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's take a step back, because not everybody who watches this is necessarily going to have seen that last interview. So let's do like a little quick recap. So first of all, everybody's first question, man, how long have you been trading?
Yep, about 5 years. Started with Robinhood and one share of Netflix, and that progressed into a negative $1,600 a year doing
Oh,
some
wow.
shares. Um, I took some time off, and then around 2019, I dove into options again, and I dove in heavy.
Okay.
But obviously, with COVID around the corner there, seeing circuit breakers on the downside for the first time ever blew my mind, and
Right.
it also blew another portfolio or two. So I stepped into some heavy losses there in the early days, but then progressed into, you know what, I'm gonna buckle up and learn how to trade and not just learn about options and how they work. So the past couple of years, been learning a lot about options, and then as I was learning about that, I learned about futures, and then man, the rest was history. Around September of last year, so what, 4 or 5 months now, I've
Okay.
been heavy into futures,
So
and
what was the trigger that
amazing.
pulled you into the futures direction after quite a bit of experience at this point with options?
A lot of it was just capital, like your margin requirements. So I first funded an account with Tradeovate because they have the lowest margins and they have a pretty good system
Sure.
platform. And I just love that you were able to make the money that you wanted to without having to have $500,000 in your thinkorswim to
Sure.
make it happen.
Sure. I remember Thinkorswim, the early days for me. So
Yeah.
that's very cool. Now, speaking of margin requirements and having to put up the cash, obviously now you are a funded trader with Apex Trader Funding. So
Yep.
when did Apex actually hit your radar?
Apex hit my radar right around August. So right before I pulled the trigger on doing some evals in that September area.
Okay.
I had a guy on the trading floor that I work with on the Discord channel, and I was looking through some funded partners like Top Step and Elite. I didn't like their structure, and had a fellow that I did a one-on-one with that was teaching me some things. Said, "Hey, I'm using Apex," and I looked him up, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so much. This is exactly what I needed because it allows me to use my rules, but within the same parameters of making money." So it was a no-brainer.
Right. That's awesome. Now, without necessarily digging into the specifics of each company and why and everything, what was it about Apex that really shone for you? What was it that made it just the clear choice?
Well, one was the price point. Like it was obviously just a little more affordable than some of the other ones.
Sure.
And on top of the sales that are happening, it was like, oh, let's do this. I might as well take a stab. But the second one was the structure of rules, and that there are none. And I say that with respect. Obviously, there's fine print, but the
Sure.
fact that I could use my own system, I could use my own degree of scaling in. It just worked for me. I was able to be free with my system and my own personality.
I think that's a pretty important point, because a lot of times people get into a funding situation where their expectation is that they trade in a way that's not necessarily comfortable to them, or at least not practiced. And when you start changing dynamics, well, the results tend to change, and usually not for the better. So it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to really keep that consistency with what you've been practicing all along and continue to be able to utilize that in that funded environment. So
Yes, you're absolutely right. I was able to go laterally with what I used for options into working with Apex, and nothing got screwed up. It was awesome.
excellent, excellent. So let's talk about some of those trading habits that are yielding you the level of success that they are. Now, in terms of consistency of action, what now do you typically trade the same times of day every day, same markets, same instruments, or do you mix it up at all?
It's a little bit of a mix up. Since I'm self-employed, I work in construction. I can do whatever I want. If I wanted to log in on Rhythmic on my phone while I'm at work, I could take 30 minutes and look at some charts and do that.
Sure.
But I typically do the morning session, not necessarily the opening bell, but within, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of that, let some structure play out, and then I look for my move. And then somewhere around power hour if I have the time for it. And then, of course, your 5 p.m. Central Time open of the futures market again. So I like
Right.
that open.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So not necessarily always the same, but certainly a level of consistency that
Yes.
that familiarity with each portion. Um, Now, what factors do you consider when it comes to you creating your routine for trading?
Man, that is a question that's been slapping me in the face recently because I've been a guy that just wakes up, has coffee, maybe a sip of water, and then I hit the ground running. Like I never had a routine. It was just as soon as I could get up, as soon as I could get to work. And
Right.
so lately that routine has been not stress, but when you have priorities that are conflicting on times, you have to figure out how to make them work or abandon one or the other. And so lately, that routine has shifted into, well, I wake up a little early, splash some cold water on my face, get ready for the session. And then I've got to adjust into going into work. And the reason I bring this up is because my routine with work was go, 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 go. Like I listen to the same playlist every day
Right.
and I just grind as fast and hard as I can. Like I'm used to this high energy, level of getting work done. And that didn't transition laterally into trading. Like you don't want to go, 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 hype me up.
Right.
It took me a couple of months to learn how to adjust and bring it down. And like, okay, I only need to look for a little bit of information to do the trade that I need. I don't need to go out guns blazing like I do at work. So that routine has been something that I've been learning. And with that comes just many aspects of knowing yourself on
Right.
how to handle that because a lot of emotions are involved.
Sure. And a lot of times it just comes down to those repetitions. Those repetitions seem to calm those
Yes,
emotional reactions, I think.
yes, they do.
When you've got that consistency, when you know what to expect, even if it may not be the most favorable in the moment, you know
Yes,
what's coming. And
yes.
gotcha. Now,
Discipline with that. I'm sorry, I won't go off on a huge tangent, but the discipline that comes with that is different too. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And a lot of times, different actions require different levels of mindset. So
they do.
it's good to know that. It's important to know that. In terms of your scheduled trading, now, I mean, obviously there's some movement. It's going to be working around your work schedule and everything else that you've got going on. But if you had to pin it down on average, about how many hours a week would you say you spend trading?
We're gonna shoot for about 10.
About 10? Okay.
Yep.
So not even a part-time job, just a little additive extra time for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, that 45 minutes to an hour and a half in the morning, and then if I do anything at night when I come home, take a shower, whatever, and then do another 30 minutes on that nighttime session or the open after hours, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I would say about 10, but that's actual like sitting on the screen, looking for my setup, right? Evaluating what's going on, finding my levels, actually trying to manage a trade, trailing it, whatever I need to be doing.
Right.
But I'm definitely putting in some full-time hours on learning what I need to learn
Right.
still because I'm nowhere near as knowledgeable with the price action as I want to be.
It's an ongoing
So,
process.
but as far as like when I'm in something, making money, losing money, one way or the other, if I'm in a position, it's about 10 hours a week.
Gotcha. Now, is your target to spend a certain amount of time in the trading process, or are you seeking like targets one way or the other on your results?
That's a great question, and I would say yes to both because I'm targeting spending as little time as possible.
Okay.
And I know that's super counterintuitive, and you hear it more often than not that less is more. But recently, I've definitely learned that spending more time at the chart doesn't net me anything better. I had a good friend of mine bring this to my attention. He said, "Listen, you work for yourself. You don't work hourly. You get paid based on the job you get done. So naturally, you want to get it done faster because you get paid more for your time, right?
Right.
On average. Think of your market. your market time the same way, where if you had a $500 hour, you're only going to bring that average down if you stay there. And so that actually helped to wake me up to where it's like, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of time goal involved as well as hitting your target and just leaving because that, that leads into exhaustion. I get physically nauseous and sick if I spend a lot of screen time
Mhm.
throughout the week. So like I want to limit my exposure to staring at a screen, not because, I don't want to be there, but because less is more.
Exactly, exactly. And quite frankly, one of the things that I learned early on about trading is if you're consistent, if you want to make more trading, don't trade more hours, trade more
Right.
contracts.
Right.
All about efficiency. So let's talk about your results, because obviously you're back here for a second time, and you've had an opportunity to get a couple of payouts. You've only been with trading with Apex Trader Funding for a few months. What would you say has happened to your consistency as a trader, being a funded trader versus being a self-funded trader, trading your own funds?
Man, it's just been night and day. Self-funded only allows me so much opportunity because I have so much capital, right?
Right.
And given my style and tenacity to get things done, like I don't know. I'll loop around for a second. Just a little bit about my personality. Like when I got my motorcycle license, I didn't go get a 250. I went straight to leader bike. When I wanted to skydive, the first time on an airplane ever, the first two times on an airplane, I never landed in them, right? And my first time jumping out was straight for a license because I wanted to go straight into base jumping. Like when I try and do something, I just do the biggest that I can at the moment.
Mhm.
And this has really brought me toe to toe to face the music with myself, in the sense that it allows me a lot more opportunity so that I'm getting a lot more data on myself
Right.
and a lot more input on how to manage myself so that I can actually capitalize on what my goal is. And it's brought me to a place of having to figure out how to manage risk so
Mhm.
much better than being self-funded ever would have. And man, we could talk for hours about
Sure.
how it's faced me, put me face to face with my loot, with my decisions,
Mhm.
and with my exhaustion that a self-funded route just didn't allow me. I don't
Excellent.
know if that answered your question
No, I
exactly,
think,
but
yeah, I think so. No, no, that definitely makes sense. So you've shifted from options, you've moved into futures, and pretty close to when you moved into futures, you did move into to trading with Apex. But has being a funded trader allowed you to experiment with anything that you wouldn't have been able to had you been funding your own trading?
yes, 100%. Like, you constantly have ideas about how you're going to adjust your style.
Mhm.
I mean, I believe on our last interview we talked about when I was doing options, I would yeet the first candle of a Tesla every morning because I thought that was a strategy.
Right.
Um, and then I used some of my programming, I won't say skills, but some of my knowledge to go into Thinkorswim and program some of my own stuff through ThinkScript, and that worked, and the back testing worked. But then in real time, it just didn't work. So all these different things, you have ideas late at night. You're trying to figure them out, and they don't, and you run out of capital, and you're like, well, I don't want to paper trade because there's no skin in the game, and it doesn't feel real, and you just don't care anymore, right? You lose interest because you're not using real money to make real money. So yes, using funded has allowed me so much more opportunity on such a more manageable scale because you're paying for evaluations, preferably on sales,
Right.
and not just blowing resets. Even though I've blown hundreds of those already, um, but it's a much more manageable scale. And when you are making money, it takes the pressure out of risking, again, like we start off with, risking all your margin.
Mhm.
So when I've had these $1,000 days, two, three, even a $5,000, I had a $5,000 day on Friday.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
it doesn't feel, thank you. But the story then in there, I lost it all. But you have these days because I stayed there and traded, right? I
Should have stopped.
stayed in it. Yeah. But it takes the pressure off of like, okay, yeah, like I lost $250 of my own money.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, that's what came out of the bank. But the amount of information I was able to gain on a $5,000 scale was something I never could have touched, if that makes sense. So yeah, allowing me to learn on that kind of scale with that amount of trades, man, I don't know what else to say other than it just provides so much more opportunity to learn.
Awesome.
And it's progressed me so much faster. Like I'm a much better trader in the past 4 months than I ever was in the past 4 years doing options and shares.
Right. Now, you mentioned a Discord group that you're a part of. How important is your trading community to you in terms of your
So
development as a trader?
so important. These guys have changed my life. And really, I was at the end of my rope when I was learning a couple more things. I took one more course from a guy who had an options category, and I looked that guy up and joined his stuff. I don't know if it's okay to say who it is here. Is that fine? Because I'm not trying to plug him. Um, but the guy's name is Jake Ricci, and he's out of California. He's Rake Trades LLC. So that community has just absolutely flipped everything. I went and took his mastermind course,
Mhm.
and it was the simplicity that I needed because again, I don't need noise. I have enough noise in my head, and it worked. It transitioned laterally from that options to futures, and I just took off from there. So, and I still stay in touch with those guys. I'm about to meet one here actually in a couple of minutes.
How cool.
And it's beyond just having a group of people that you can be friends with and just joke around with. These guys are constantly showing up, and that's what made the difference for me.
Right.
Is every morning it's not just a couple of signals, which I have all those parts muted. It's guys that show up and teach you again and again and again and again, and they help drive that discipline home so that your style can actually gain some roots and not get washed away and start being like trappy markets.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've got to say, I mean, just the friendship that we've developed over the last couple of months since we first did an interview, and some of the people that I've connected with through Apex's Facebook groups and stuff
Right.
like that. As I'm going through my journey, as I'm going through my process, just the random shout outs or comments or quick text or whatever I get from you, from some of these other guys, I mean, that means everything to me. That's just such a motivator for me. If I had a rough day, it gives me the juice to get back in the next day. And if I've had a
Yeah.
great day, it gives me that outlet to really celebrate it. And so
Right.
I'm a big proponent of having that level of community with whatever you do. And trading is absolutely no different. And when we're dealing with the emotions and the pace that we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about when we're dealing with trading, I think that it is so critically important to have that community, because a lot of times that's what gets you out of bed the next day if you need
Right.
one way or another.
You're absolutely right.
So let's talk about moving forward. I mean, what does moving forward look like for you? What are your next steps in your trading journey?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's to put it simply, I need to redefine success. Like that
Okay.
was one of my last journal entries on Friday because I was making it about a month, and I have been my whole life. Like I want to replace my job. I want to give my wife more freedom to go ride her horse or make a business out of it, and take a vacation every couple of months so that our marriage can stay as healthy as possible. Like those are some goals, and I keep front running my goals. I keep getting a couple of PAs, and man, if I was in the music industry, you could just call me Beyonce because I just yoink every account I get. And I'm not ashamed to say this. I'm on a funded account number like 43,
Right.
and all of those I've gotten a couple payouts, great, but they've just disappeared because I've been disrespectful with my risk management and with what I define as success. So my next steps are reiterating those base points of trading is about a good RR. It's about risk management. It's about better setups.
Mhm.
It's about being patient. I don't need to come at the open and just start blasting. Like
Right.
that's a big deal for me moving forward. Is continuing to redefine what success really is, and it has nothing to do with the money.
The money should be the after effect of the success. That's the way I see
Yeah,
things.
yes, right. Yeah, the
When
reward
you're
of the work you're doing.
successful, you're doing all the things that you need to do, that you want to do, that make sense, and the net result of that should be money.
Right.
But when that money's that driving force, it really changes the dynamics in your head. So I think that's just an awesome perspective, and I 100% agree with you on that. I've been going through some of this myself. So it's an unbelievable opportunity really for someone to learn a skill that can't be taken away. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you have the skill to make trading decisions. You have the resources to be funded. You have
Mhm.
if the world crashed for, wait for the sale, and for 50, $60 you can get a new evaluation, get in there and start pulling money out of it. And
Right.
that ultimately is a level of freedom that, quite frankly, most people never see.
You're absolutely right. And I was chatting with the guy recently about that, whereas he had a rough day on Friday as well. And honestly, there were dozens of people that did. I hardly know anybody. You had a good day, and that was about it, as far as the
I
people I know.
I did
Um,
in about what, less than 5 minutes was all I traded, and I was up my three small trades, but I was up my three trades, and that was my limit for the day, and I was out. Good thing, huh?
God, yeah. Um, Man, I don't even remember what I was going to say, but using the capital, he had an options account as well. He was using some capital, and we were talking about like, we sometimes we use entire family salaries trying to figure this out and take big losses. And for me, using just $60 eval or 30 or whatever it is on sale is much more affordable, but provides the astronomical opportunity that you would have made or want to make, without putting a cap on you. Like
Right.
within limits, like just don't abuse the system. But yeah, like we don't have to lose our house. We don't have to lose whatever a car. We don't have to lose these tens of thousands of dollars to learn these lessons when we can use an opportunity like this and utilize the margin and kind of learn some of the same skills.
Well, and that's one of the things that I try to tell people. For a nominal amount, budget yourself a certain amount of money per month
Right.
to feed into this process. Instead of taking 10 grand out of the bank and depositing it, budget a few $100 a month
Right.
to go through and learn the evaluation process, to master the evaluation process, to get yourself into those PAs, and along the way, you're going to pull a little money out. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, that's the beauty of it. Eventually, you get to the point where you've got that level of consistency, and that at that point, sure, you could probably feed 50,000 bucks into the system and get your own nice self-funded account with plenty of room,
Yes.
but you don't have to. That 50 grand is
Exactly.
still in your bank or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah, because what happens if I still have that inevitable one bad day a year?
right,
Just the one,
all it
I'm
takes.
risking whatever I have in that PA, and that's it. And yes, it's tangible money that you can put
Sure,
into a truck payment, house payment, paying off your debt.
exactly.
But at the same time, as far as what came out of your bank, it's still safe.
Right, right. Well, John, once again, congratulations. Thanks for spending a little bit more time with us today. Keep doing what you're doing,
Yes, sir.
and maybe we'll catch back up in a couple of months, and we'll talk about some of those big payouts when they start hitting. Sound
Yep,
good?
yep. I'll be seeing you soon, bud.
Keep it up, man.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.